very much.
Diogo won't stop talking about his Figma bags.
That's right. Stepan, what do you think?
I promise this is not a sponsored post, by the way.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another week of In the Charts. We've got Diogo Mónica, Breck Stodghill, who are our regulars, and then we've got a special guest this week, Stepan, who is the CEO and co-founder of Squads. And we wanted to have Stepan on this week because there's been some really cool news with Squads. They announced a partnership that is, no big deal, of course. But yeah, we wanted Stepan on the show and for him to share with us a chart that he wants to share with the world. So Stepan, I'll hand it over to you.
Let's just say that Squad is a portfolio company of Ahn Ventures. And so we are heavily conflicted here and we have deep bags. I just want to
disclaim that. Not conflicted. Financial advice.
Not financial advice, not conflicted, very aligned.
I also have deep bags of Squad, so I think we're all aligned here. Thanks for having me. I'm a huge fan. I think that's gonna be our fourth show. I've listened to all the previous ones. I'm gonna share a chart. We had a big partnership announced this week actually. So we announced a partnership with Coinbase, where we're partnering deeper with the Coinbase team on growing USDC adoption across the Solana ecosystem. And this chart shows the stablecoin growth across the Squads platform, across all our products, including Squads Multisig, Fuse, our consumer app, Grid, our developer APIs and platform, and Altitude, our business account that just launched, but already has some TVL as of last week. And so we've been growing, the stablecoin supply at a rapid pace. It also coincides with the growth in the Solana ecosystem broadly. But also, USDC is the most dominant stablecoin across the Solana ecosystem, and we are holding across the platform, we have 15% of the total USDC supply on Solana, and almost 2% of USDC total supply across the crypto markets. And so this partnership is really important for us because it allows us to accelerate growth of USDC across our products even further, and really gives us an opportunity to further grow stablecoin adoption on Solana even more, which has been remarkable, over the last couple of years.
This is awesome to see, Stepan. I think one thing that'll be interesting to talk about is just how vertically integrated Squads is. You started with the multi-sig, and obviously you spent a lot of time making sure that it's secure, built in all the right ways that you would want to. And then even though the company's been around for 3+ years, you can see just how the beginning of this chart really starts in the beginning of 2024, right? So maybe you can share a little bit about the company's evolution and really a lot of this growth that you've been seeing over the last 18 months.
Absolutely, yeah. So we started really focusing on very on-chain native use cases, and originally we're actually building DAO tooling infrastructure, but decided to focus on multisig as this core piece of the stack. So we built a protocol. We spent a lot of time and money making it very secure, making it very reliable, and built it up to be this sort of smart account multisig standard for the Solana ecosystem broadly. And on top of it, we built Squads Multisig, which is the kind of the core application that allows any team in the ecosystem to create a secure on-chain account and manage on-chain assets. And I think in the beginning, once we started rolling out multisig to customers, majority of the sort of value secured was really kind of their native protocol tokens. Like most teams would have some kind of banking solution they would use, and then they would kind of secure their token treasuries in Squads. But as our products got better, as the sort of adoption of stablecoins broadly in the crypto ecosystem has proliferated, we actually started seeing a lot more teams moving their stablecoin balances or moving their kind of dollar balances from off-chain on-chain in Squads Multisig. And that's basically kind of forced us to think what is the right product for that type of customer, right? Because on one hand, you have a crypto native protocol that's storing their token treasury. On the other hand, you have essentially a bunch of people who are on the ops side who need to manage business processes, who need to do payroll, who need to manage these stablecoins, similar to kind of business banking workflows. And so that's how Altitude was born, right? We essentially figured out that we need another dedicated product that's really there to help those businesses or like business and operations arms of these larger protocols to manage their stablecoin balances. And so I think this chart really shows you that like it shows trust, obviously, in our infrastructure. And I think it broadly shows trust in holding, dollars on chain and then using those dollars as, and then using these on-chain accounts with, stablecoins as the core business operating accounts over using, traditional financial rails.
Actually, I'm super curious, Stepan. You're right in the middle of this, and so you're the right person to actually ask a question like this, which is you have direct relationship with the consumer. They love your product. They're using you. They're depositing on you. On the other end, you are actually providing access to dollars through a stable coin that is not issued by you, that has very famously yield sharing agreement between two large players like Circle and Coinbase. And I've seen it at Anchorage, which is once we got to billions of dollars of stables, is like, wouldn't it be a shame if we under the hood swap this nice stable coin you have here for another stable coin that I can actually generate yield for my customers? And so you're right in the position where I've been at Anchorage, and which is direct relationship with consumers and multi-billion-dollar deposits that are growing really fast. And so now you have leverage. And so within this, it's less about, kind of like this mechanics of the yield sharing agreements and more, what do you think about the market structure? How does this end up? Which stablecoins win? Isn't this like your lived experience, a demonstration that you have all the negotiation power?
I think that's a great question, right? And I think like there's a difference to kind of the like we are fully self-custodial, right? So even if we wanted to, by design, like the reason our protocol and our product and the brand is so trusted is because we can't swap out any token for any token, right? Like only the customer can make that decision, and so that's very core to our business, very core to how we actually build our products. But I think you're kind of bringing up the a great point, right? Like I think now if you're holding a stablecoin balance, you're expecting a lot more from just, hey, I have this dollar on chain, like I'm super happy that it's there and I can trade things with it. Now, as we're kind of going much deeper into building out banking-like features or experiences on chain, there's a question of like, can I earn yield on that, and like how can I do that? And I think the way we're thinking about it is we have a lot of USDC on platform, not just because, we personally prefer USDC, but also because our customers prefer USDC. USDC has massive network effects. It's the most widely used stablecoin, at least in the ecosystem we're in, and, in many other ecosystems as well. And I think what we have decided is that for us, it makes a ton of sense to sort of keep USDC as the core cash account stablecoin, which is, used for payments. It kind of like is the baseline stablecoin. But then we will offer different, yield and rewards opportunities if customers want it, right, to essentially go and earn, DeFi yield, earn potentially other sources of yield, which come from, RWA sources, on their stablecoin balances. And so from that perspective, we think that it kind of creates this nice synergy where you can get the best of both worlds, where like you can keep the relevant cash portion of your account in USDC, and then you can use it for, payroll and kind of instant, orchestration payouts to wherever you want. But then you can have essentially investment accounts where you go and earn, 4%, 7, 8, 10, whatever it is. I think in terms of how the market structure, shapes up, like we're definitely seeing, tons of new stablecoin issuers, and there's kind of different, customer acquisition strategies that these issuers are employing. But I think somebody in our position where we have, such deep relationship at this point with USDC, and our customers have that as well, it does make a lot of sense. That said, though, we're really close with, Bridge, we're really close with M0, and basically a bunch of other issuers that are kind of thinking about kind of entering the space. And obviously, you can, hold these stablecoins in our products. You can, once they get supported through, BVNK or Bridge or whatever the orchestration rail of choice, you will be able to use them for payouts. But we're definitely kind of betting on USDC as being kind of the core thread here. But obviously, we, again, as we're self-custodial, we can't prevent our users going into anything else.
Stepan, I have one last question for you, which is, I feel like broadly as an ecosystem, we're trying to move from stablecoins as a rail to stablecoins as a unit of account. And I think Squads has actually been in a great place to be able to increase adoptions of stablecoin as a unit of account. You've grown 4x in the last 8 months. What are the growth levers from here? How do you think you get more people holding dollars via stablecoins on Squads?
So I think this is exactly why, this is exactly how we're thinking about our product strategy, right? It's like, how do we, grow our stablecoin balances 2, 3, 4, 5x? And it's also just I think not all stablecoin balances are created equal, right? Like I think we're particularly interested in, productive economic use cases for stablecoins, right? Where you can pay for services, you can, pay employees, do payroll, pay for goods, use it for, cross-border transfers. And so this is why, we're building Altitude, which is kind of very much positioned both for, crypto native businesses, but also very much outside, right? Like if you're, a merchant on Shopify, if you're a non-crypto startup that's looking for, business banking, you will be able to use Altitude as your self-custodial platform to manage, your stablecoin balance. And I think the same goes for Fuse, which is our consumer app, and then Grid, which is a set of APIs. Like it's all really about kind of growing, the stablecoin balance on the platform, but in a way that's not purely, familiar to what we've done before, where you have a lot of these larger protocol teams that diversify their token treasuries and then, store these stablecoins on squads, but very much, real traditional businesses that are trying to, find better rails and essentially better access to better money and more programmable money using these new tools. And so I think this is where we really hope it, the next kind of leg of growth comes from. And I think we already are seeing kind of a lot of pull from the market. And yeah, I think that's probably the next 2 years of Squads will be really about bringing that economic activity onto the platform.
That's great. Well, we're excited to be along for the ride. I'm going to shift gears now and share my chart. Let's see.
Now, Stepan, you're off the hot seat and you can judge Breck's chart all you want. This
I'm
is the
looking
easy
forward
part.
to it.
Also complain if he brings more than one or if he brings a table. Like people like to bring tables to in the charts. It's ridiculous.
I know Diogo's he's the stickler of the group. And
I'm
sure
the chart purist.
And I'm sure he's going to have 3 charts of his own to share later today. Okay, so I'm going to bring a chart about Figma. We're a little delayed here, but I feel like in the last, call it 3 weeks, there's been a lot of conversations about the Figma IPO, from mispricing to like the Adobe acquisition to all the boatloads of money that early investors have made. But this is actually probably my favorite topic of conversation for Figma. And this is a chart about how long it took certain companies to go from a live product to their first customer to $1 million in ARR. And you can see a bunch of different companies here, but on the very bottom is Figma. And it took them almost 3.5 years to actually build a working product, and then another 1.5 years to get their first customer, and then another year to get their first $1 million in ARR. And fast forward 12 years, it's a $40 billion company on the stock exchange. The classic 12-year overnight success. And I think there's a lot of lessons here for startup founders about like commitment, timing, craft here. We're living in a world today where like if we were to make this chart, and I think we've actually even done it on this podcast, where it's like not $1 million in ARR, it's time to $100 million in revenue. And, there's a bunch of AI companies that have done that in like less than a year. There's some crypto companies that have done that in less than a year. And they're like these supernova companies. But Figma did it the long, slow route, and they won a lot of like hearts and minds as a result, not only with their customers, but with their employees and like honestly the entirety of Silicon Valley. I don't know. I wanted to talk about it. I feel like this is like an interesting topic of conversation, given the rise of $100 million revenue companies in a year versus, the large ones, the ones that stick around for a while, taking it and having it being a long, slow burn. And so we have 2 founders here, so I feel like it'd be a good. Maybe you guys can react first, both Diogo and Stepan.
Yeah, let me just say that I've known Dylan for a while. What a great CEO. They must have gone through the ringer on the failed acquisition or the blocked acquisition, so to speak. And now what validation of their business. And as a business, what a great business. 90% gross margins, 30% free cash flow. I think they're going to grow like 40% or so over the next 12 months. Obviously, they're trading at a very healthy multiple, but what a great business that Dylan has created, and huge validation coming out of this acquisition from Adobe. Tons of respect. And, he was nice enough to get me on the friends and family allocation for the IPO. So I'm a bag holder, I have to admit, and very much.
Diogo won't stop talking about his Figma bags.
That's right. Stepan, what do you think?
I promise this is not a sponsored post, by the way.
So I'm not an investor in Figma, but I'm a user from day one, at least day one from, starting Squads and also, playing around with Figma before. I'm a huge fan of the product, and I think, yeah, it's a remarkable company. I think in terms of, time to ARR, and, there's a clip yesterday that went viral on Twitter about, AI companies, supernova companies getting to 100 million ARR. And I think these days we have to juxtaposition, this kind of chart against, gross margin charts and kind of seeing whether they're negative or positive. And so I think that's also, becoming a lot more important in the current context. But I think Figma, has done it remarkably. And I also feel like, the market today, you have these supernova companies. Not sure if, is going to persist at that scale. But I think the timeline definitely compresses, right? Because like it's much easier to build software. It's much easier to, go to market quicker. And so I think we are seeing definitely a shift in these timelines, and they should compress, as we go further.
Yeah, let me just say that we shouldn't use this as an example of like follow your dreams. And if nothing is working for like 4 years or 5 years or 7 years and you haven't gotten your first $1 million of ARR, you should, blindly pursue the path you're on. And that is not the message at all. And the fact that this is an outlier actually should not be used as an example for anything. I think, arguably like they should have done something that have worked. Maybe they would have missed on this opportunity, but they would have gone to something amazing anyway. I trust Dylan more than enough to have found some other thing that would have been a multi-billion-dollar company. So please, if you're a founder, don't use this as an example of like, oh, I haven't generated any revenue in 4 years, but I believe I have conviction I'm chasing the dream.
I was going to say the first reaction I had is there's also a point in time when you started the company. Today, when you want to build software, you need way less people, you need way less capital to actually ship the product. And then to even sell the product, it's significantly faster if you, again, like hit that viral moment and you get the supernova companies. Figma didn't have the benefit of that, right? So when they were starting to build the product for the first time, WebGL is really the thing that enabled them to build what they built in the browser. And that in and of itself was a nascent technology. And so there's a little bit of a cohort in time thing as well here, where I actually would be curious, like if you try to recreate Figma with, modern AI tools, would this timeline have actually compressed meaningfully? And the answer is probably yes. I don't know by how much, but it probably is yes. That resonates.
Yeah. The next question is, are they an AI tool themselves now? And how much of the market cap is the fact that they're a very popular, very fast growing, high distribution AI tool that is moving extremely fast with the founder or CEO? So that one is an interesting one. And again, not financial advice, but long Figma. Okay.
Yeah,
so
they'll soon rebrand to Figma.
Figma, I love it.
FIGM.ai.
You've heard it here first. I hope that Dylan is listening to this, and I'll send the link
value
after
add.
this. Yeah, it's value add in registering the domain.
I hope they have the domain.
5x multiple expansion overnight.
Okay, total left turn. I just want you to show this chart because I thought it was an insane chart. It has nothing to do with anything that we brought up. This is a chart of Canadian home price declines over time. And so just opposed with United States. So what you're seeing is two graphs side by side. On the x-axis, you have time from 2000 all the way to 2025, and the y-axis, you essentially have percentage of change in inflation-adjusted values of home prices. So you have two lines. You have a black line on both charts that is the home price, and then you have a blue line, which is income. So what this is showing is the difference of price appreciation of homes compared to income. And as you'd expect, if you look at the United States, you see a chart that is not a very healthy chart. But, at this level of Zoom, at least, there's been two big bubbles, one right now that we're in of home prices, and one that started in 2000 all the way to the 2008 crisis, where home prices accelerated in terms of growth compared to incomes, and then came back towards reversion to the mean. They actually dropped between 2011 and 2015. Then they caught up, and now they're diverging again since 2021. However, right next to it, there's a chart of the same exact thing, but for Canada. And the chart is insane. In 2003, something happens, and the home prices just start diverging from income, and is never caught up, not even close. Not only that, obviously, since the prices diverge so much, the volatility of the home prices is actually much higher than the United States from this chart. There's been two big drops, one in 2018-ish and one in 2023, 2024. So right now, there's this narrative in most places in the world where home appreciation is one of the big ways in which people create wealth. That certainly has been true for the United States, but it is now not true in Canada for anyone that has bought a house in the past 3 years. And that's kind of insane. There's negative wealth creation of actually going and buying a house and getting a mortgage. And that, I thought, was kind of a major narrative violation in what is considered one of the great countries, one of the superpowers. And this is not true. And clearly has not been true, and is so far off that is very striking. So I wanted you guys to comment on this.
I have two thoughts. The Canada home prices honestly looks exactly like the Bitcoin chart. It like maxes out in 2017 and then like goes down and maxes out in 2021. That's crazy.
We should bring in
The
a correlation chart next week.
we should. The second thought I have is I'm pretty sure Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth documentary about global warming came out in the early 2000s, and maybe people are just pricing that in and going long Canada. Like everyone in the southern hemisphere is just like,
It's going to be
shit,
beachfront property.
Exactly. That's the other thing that my mind goes to is like, this is completely irrational.
So there's something to be said, by the way, which is Canada forbids, at least for 2 years, I don't know what the status of that is, from foreigners of buying houses, which, immediately means that, I don't know if this is the drop that we're seeing, but immediately means that there's much less demand than supply. And I think now still some significant portion, I think it's 5% of houses purchased in Canada are still from foreigners through LLCs and like other like ways that people kind of like go around this. But I think that lack of demand definitely is one of the causes. But in that sense, it's working. I guess it's deflating the price of the houses and they're becoming more affordable for Canadians. But all the Canadians that had houses are obviously unhappy about this.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention is my understanding was that there's actually a lot of foreigners that are buying property in Canada. Like Vancouver, my understanding is there's a lot of Chinese nationals that buy property in Vancouver, for example.
But Chris, the question for you is that not the same exact thing in the United States? The United States has been this place for you to accumulate wealth, like New York houses, San Francisco houses. Like it feels to me like the juxtaposition of like the United States should behave like Canada, and somehow it clearly does not.
I think the immigration policies in Canada were even more lax than the US. And so I think it was even more inviting. It's like, if we think we had an immigration problem here in the US and people are reacting to it now, it was actually literally like, oh, I couldn't immigrate to the US and therefore I'm going to go to Canada. And that was what it was. I don't know if that's since changed, but my understanding is like that effect is very, very large. The other thing that it comes to mind for me is like, if you think about home prices, there's like 3 raw ingredients to home prices. It's, literally density, as in like how much land do you have? The second one is like building materials. So basically how much wood do you have? And then it's labor. And then you add on top of it, basically regulations. And I think the combination and policies effectively, and the combination of that kind of results in home prices. Canada has a lot of land. It's like 80% or 90% of the population lives on like 10 to 20% of the land. Maybe you would argue like, 60, 70% of the land is either uninhabitable or less desirable, but they've got a lot of land.
If you just wait a couple of years though,
they're just buying ahead of the market. Just buying ahead. Yeah. And then the second thing is Canada has a lot of wood, as in like a lot of US construction imports their, lumber from Canada. And because of favorable immigration policies, they also have a good number of people. And so I don't know how to break this down, but that kind of leads me to, this is probably some fault of policy or regulation. Like if you were talking about like, okay, this is like, housing prices in an area where population is booming and land is scarce, I'd be like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But Canada is really none of those things.
I love this. Is the Settlers of Catan view of Canada's real estate market.
I just learned 2 things. First, I learned that Chris believes Canada is effectively a safety school for immigrants trying to get into the US. And then the second thing I learned is if we want to know what the price of Bitcoin is going to do, we just need to watch the Canadian home prices chart.
That's it.
Your words, not mine.
Not financial advice.
Chris, you're up next. What did you bring us?
I brought us a fun chart. This is a couple weeks old, but this is can you guys see this? Yeah. So Blake Robbins tweeted this, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago, and it just really stuck with me. The tweet reads, pretty fun narrative violation from the Roblox earnings. And for those that are not familiar with Roblox, it is a game where you can go build things. It's kind of this free-form game. It's kind of like Minecraft in some ways. And it was usually targeted at kids. And Blake is highlighting that now 64% of Roblox's daily active users are older than 13. And that is definitely against the popular idea of what a Roblox user is. So We can ignore the left side. I'm not sure that this is relevant for this conversation. But on the right-hand side, this is the chart that shows by age group. And so you'll see that this is year-over-year growth. The under 13 cohort of users, it's still growing, but it's growing significantly less than the over 13 cohort of users. And you can see in the absolute numbers here, the under 13 users have grown like modestly. And then the over 13 users here in the lighter color has effectively doubled over the last 2 years. And I think this is really interesting because there were these companies and products that were created at a point in time. And we've all grown with these products, right? And so you would think like, actually, I was a Roblox gamer when I was, 10 years old. And maybe by the time I'm 13, I'll grow out of this game and I'll move on to something else. But clearly, maybe that's not true. Or the other narrative is that Roblox is growing up and the likes of, you or me are now interested in Roblox in a way that we were not like 5 years ago. I would probably believe the former, as in you grew with the game, than the latter. But I think it's interesting that people are not graduating away as much as you would think.
Let me give you one anecdote here, which I think is very interesting. And it happened literally just this week, which is we all grew up with Pokemon. And I just made the argument that it is ridiculous that this week I saw my wife on some Pokemon app opening a virtual like little pack of Pokemon cards and showing my son how shiny they were. I'm like, wait a minute, you are old. Objectively speaking for Pokemon, and my son is very young. He's 3 years old, and both of you are bonding over something that just like spans generations. And I was very surprised by that.
For every generation, there's their own, there's their own game, right? But then you have some that fully transcend, right? That kind of stay with each generation. And I think also like at some point, gaming broadly used to be for kids, but then those kids grew up and they're still gaming, right? And so some things like really stay with you for a long time. But yeah, I've actually completely missed Roblox, right? Like I was, much older, and so I've never even tried it. But I had my own games at the time, right? Like GTA or whatever it was. And so, but I also don't really play GTA anymore because I don't have the time. But I guess if I had more time, maybe I still would.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting one. Like my intuition would have been that the people were just getting older. And so like if you're playing the game at 12 and like 2 years passed, you're now 14. So now there's more people that are over 13 that are playing the game. But it actually is growing as a percentage of DAUs, which is kind of crazy. The only way that I can try and justify it is 13 is like the age by which you move from middle school to high school. And maybe like money becomes more real as a concept to you. You're not getting an allowance anymore and you want to buy your own things. Like you start to have your own interests and things that you want to get on your own. And Roblox could be an outlet for that. And I would love to see if you could see like dollars earned by age to like try and confirm or deny that theory. But that's where my mind goes, is I can remember like, going to high school, being a freshman at the age of 14, like needing some money to, do things with my friends or like try to impress a girl. And I didn't do that in middle school. I was more so just like, I was a taker of life. And then like high school, you become a maker a little bit more. And so that's my theory.
Yeah. Age 13 is really a good kind of barometer because it's right when you enter high school. So that resonates. The thing that it reminded me of is the like visceral memory / example of this from my childhood is I'd be in a car with my dad and he'd be pumping songs from like 30 years ago. And I'd be like, these songs are terrible. Like, I want to listen to the thing that's out now. Like, these are terrible. But music is one of these things where you grow up with them and you don't grow out of them. Like, you keep them. And the music scene you don't graduate from it. Like, you just stay with the cohort that you're in. And I think we're seeing other examples of this too, right? We're going to now cross categories, but like Replit as software took going back to the Figma chart, like taking a really long time. Replit is a coding tool. And I remember thinking, their strategy in the beginning was we're going to go to these universities because good luck changing the habit of developers who've been using like some IDE for the last 20 years. Good luck with that. But what we can do is change the behavior of the new cohort of developers that are going to come online in the next like 2, 3 to 10 years. And I think that strategy has really worked for them.
You're going to take Vim out of my cold, dead hands.
Exactly. Like that's never happening. And so I remember thinking that was a bold bet from Replit. And now coming back to crypto and finance, I would argue the same is true for Robinhood. Like you open an account there, you're not going to Schwab. You're not going to these other tools.
Yeah, for different verticals, there's like formation stage where you can't really break out of the habits or the things that you love. And I think for things like culture, so like movies, music, games, that is really early. It's like you're 13. Like there was this saying in movies, like you will love the things that you loved when you were 13 for the rest of your life. I think that's true. Like if you were to recall, like what was your favorite movie when you were 13? If you were to watch it today, you'd have like so much nostalgia. It takes you right back to that seat in your parents' couch. And I think that, for different verticals, there might be a different age group at the formation stage. For coding, it's like you're taking a computer science class, you're learning the habits that you'll take on to your first job. For finances, it's like when you first start to have some like real money that's yours and not your parents. So I don't know. This is cool. I like this chart.
Awesome. Another great episode in the books. Stepan, thank you for joining us this week. It was lovely to have you. And
Thank you for having me.
Everyone go check out Squads.
See you guys.
Yes. See y'all.